We're trying to understand economic development and growth, but it's a difficult topic. If it was easy, all countries and their populations would be rich. One way that economics deal with complex issues is to build economic models. Most economists believe strongly that models are useful because they allow us to focus on the general process, the general rules that may apply in many different situations and circumstances. But, of course, an economic model is a simplified, logical representation of the real world. The model highlights some relationships that the economist feels are important, while ignoring other factors. At the end of the day, whether an economic model is good or bad is determined by the empirical evidence. That is, all models need to be tested against the real world. Okay, having said all that, let's start to think about one model of growth and development. Now, in its current form, the field of economic development was basically invented after World War II, and the new field was most influenced by two historical events. Both occurred around the 1930s. The first one was the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression. The unemployment rate in the US rose to 25%, and in some other countries, the unemployment rate reached 33%. That is, there was a lot of unemployed workers, which is about to become important to our first story. The second event was the industrialization of the Soviet Union, which was achieved mainly through forced saving and planned investment. That is, forcing people to save and having the government, the state, make the investment plans. Now, these two events influenced an American economist named Walt Whitman, like the poet, Walt Whitman Rostow. Rostow was the son of Russian immigrants, and he was also the national security advisor to President Lyndon Johnson. W. W. Rostow developed his stages of growth model in 1960. To understand his model, we should know the following four things. 1. Rostow had carefully studied the historical development of the US and other Western economies. 2. He had witnessed the success of the Marshall Plan after World War II, the program that provided aid from the US to Europe after World War II. 3. He had also witnessed the apparent success of the Soviet Union. And 4. His model arrived during the Cold War against communism. Actually, the historical context is important. There was a Cold War against communism being fought globally. That is, Western countries were fighting to stop the spread of communism after World War II. Most people at the time actually felt that the Soviet model of economic growth was superior, economically superior to the Western model, even if it violated individual freedoms. Many, Rostow included, wanted to create a model of growth and development that could compete with communism, compete with the Soviet model. That is, compete with a model of forced saving and planned investment. Rostow and others wanted to give countries, especially developing countries, an attractive development alternative to communism and the Soviet model. Again, in an effort to stop the spread of communism. And perhaps importantly, their goal was not really to help improve developing countries or the lives of their populations. The underlying assumption, a value judgment of the Rostow stages of growth model is that all countries want to modernize and strive to reach materialistic well-being in the form of accumulation of consumer goods. That is, the assumed goal of all people and societies is mass consumption. Now, given his knowledge of the US and other Western economies, Rostow noted 5 stages of growth and argued that all economies can be fit into one of these 5 stages. And based on his thinking, development occurs as society moves from a lower stage to a higher stage. Before I tell you about the stages, I wonder if you were to create a stages of growth model that all countries pass through on their way to development, what would your stages be? What would be the last stage? What would be the other stages I would have to go through? Think about it.